I can see it. I'm the vice chair of the Southern chapter of the New Jersey Libertarian Party. We have such a with New Jersey. There's so much space and so much people, populace and stuff. We're actually separated into three different: northern, central, and southern. Oh, well, basically, early in my days, teenage years, stuff like that, I was mainly anarchist. I didn't feel like people should make rules for other people, and generally, good people will do good things, bad people will do bad things, regardless of what. Excuse me, I'm still eating dinner. What laws there are, and basically, we see that happen um, in real life because there's huge criminal organizations that thrive off of breaking the law, and the government generally turns a blind eye to it because they're making money off of it too. Um, and laws are supposed to protect us, and really, it's more of the constitutional value of the laws are supposed to protect our rights, not protect us individually, but protect our individual rights. And basically, the only I was going through kind of an existential thing with the anarchy because, like, how are we going to keep this anarchy alive without it going into some type of tyranny? And that's basically I tried looking into the Republicans, into the Green Party, and the Democrats, and like some of them have bits and pieces of it, but never enough to fully give us our freedom. And the Libertarian Party platform was really the closest thing to allowing anarchy that I could see. While it also gave some type of structure and rule of law. And rule of law is different. Yes, I'm 41 now. And I probably did this when I was like 16, 17, between that time. Um, when I shave, they think I'm younger, but the gray hair and the beard makes, shows my age. Um, but yeah. Mhm. Yeah, actually, it's a divide that has our party has had a long standing how do I put this? Basically, it's we've been able to avoid the partisan divide for a very long time. The party was first made in the 70s, and throughout that time, basically, when I started getting into it in the 90s, it was basically, you know, we're not left, we're not right, we're libertarian. We're not Republicans, we're not Democrats, we're libertarian. You can have your beliefs, and I can have my beliefs, and we can live next to each other and still respect each other. Granted, burning crosses on other people's lawns, or murdering people, or things like heinous things like that, of course, aren't just differences of opinion or differences of a way of life. That's actually interfering with other people, and that's basically where the libertarian platform draws a line. Is you can do whatever you want to do for yourself, to yourself, but to others, that's the other thing. You can't violate their rights. And that just logically makes sense, and it goes into a lot of what our founding fathers were actually moving towards or trying to go for with the Constitution. Um, you know, and basically we were never big on that partisan divide. There was always the idea that a voluntary commune is appropriate within the libertarian platform, as well as a single homestead anarchist, and they can be neighbors and they can trade with each other because the commune might have resources that the anarchist doesn't have. The anarchist might have resources the commune doesn't have, and you can work with each other within the free market and trade what you have and what they don't have and what you need. Um, even if that does wind up being some type of monetary trade, we can still do that with a sound monetary system. Um, so yes, I think we have a similar outlook. Like personally, we are anarchist, but we also don't want to push that on other people. We don't feel that it's necessary for everybody to be anarchist. Um, and like I said, it was a libertarian party platform that allowed the anarchy without making things illegal, such as growing your own food, being off the grid, self-sustaining types of things that people can do to not rely on the government. You know, and a lot of the laws actually prevent people from being self-sustaining. I'm not allowed to have chickens in my yard, but eggs are outrageous. So I have a friend who has a yard with chickens or that can handle chickens. So we're splitting the costs. I'm helping him take care of the chickens and we're going to split the eggs, and that's the inherent aspect of anarchy is like, screw you. I'm going to do what I want anyways, somehow, some way. But mhm, there has always been those personalities, those random comments, those random people trying to implement the partisan rhetoric. Um, and from the 80s, 2000s on, it generally was shunned. It was like, no, we're not going to fight over that. That's ridiculous. That's preposterous because we're not drawing those lines. The partisan rhetoric, basically left versus right paradigm. You're racist because you're right wing, or you're a stinking commie because you're left wing, or whatever. Those are the most common types of insults that come along with it. Um, and then the general like, oh, you're not libertarian because you don't believe what I believe type of crap. That's never been a major staple within the party um, until recently, and it was generally I can say personally I saw that start to happen more when Nick Sarwark was elected as chair. He did great things before he did this, and he was actually very very seemed to be against the partisan divide. And then he gets that seat of power, and all of a sudden he's like, "Oh well, we got to row with these people. We can't row against the stream. We got to row with them to have any force or anything like that." And it really started pushing us more towards I want to say leftist ideals, and shunning the right ideal, the right wing ideals. Um, mhm. No, he was actually supporting Ron Paul. He was actually working with Ron Paul and other things like that, and he had worked as part of the Libertarian Party for a while before he gained a lot of people's respect and support. And and then when he came in, it was just kind of like it was a flip of a switch, almost like it's like you want to go into the conspiracy theory of like maybe he was contacted and threatened and said if you don't do this, then something's gonna happen, you know. And you can definitely see like with McAfee, John McAfee was a big name back in the day, and now he's dead, and he even said like I'm not gonna kill myself, I'm not gonna do this. Understand that if they put me in jail, they're going to frame me for suicide. And it happened, it got washed under the rug, you know. um what I, I believe it's pronounced Mises. It was from Ludwig von Mises. um and basically I've seen it from the inside. I am on the group chats, I am in the groups. I did sign the confidentiality agreements to be part of the planning and the strategy stuff. And we're going to implement that coming soon. I have just recently gained my position in the Libertarian Party, and I'm glad that you brought that up in general because I was always what was considered a small L, somebody who was not part of the party in general. But I would go to events like my band Pool of Thorns even played a summer barbecue at Jay Edgar's house years ago. And I've always been in the debates. I've always been talking with people. I've always been involved and always trying to push for the candidates that I felt would be actual good candidates. Um, a huge supporter of Gary Johnson. Um, and just some of the things fell off in between Ron Paul and Gary Johnson type of stuff. Um, and then with Joe Jorgensen coming in, kind of catering to the populist leftist ideals of the BLM and everything, kind of that kind of threw a big divide into the party. But the Mises Caucus is not singularly ran at all. Um, it's being well, it's basically it's a bunch of different people who got fed up with the LNC themselves catering to the oligarchy, catering to the elite. Um, one of the biggest complaints was that they didn't do anything about the COVID mandates because many of the COVID mandates went against science. Actually, a lot of the stuff that the government was telling us was lies. You know, well, they weren't taking a stance on it either way. They weren't being vocal against it, and a lot of the people individually were promoting those ideals. So, and they were afraid of you know being punished for it or whatever like that. But with the Mises Caucus, like they say, oh, you can't be a part of them if you don't agree. Well, I've had many debates with even the top people about IP, intellectual property, about digital currency, about abortion. A couple of these planks that they have are things that they're known for. I don't necessarily agree with all of it, but I'm not like going nuts about it. I'm not calling them names. I'm not putting them down. I'm using logic and debating the topics. And like basically, I agree that within the IP laws, a lot of that definitely caters to a lot of big companies and prevents people from inventing new ideas and being able to actually make a profit off of them. It actually also allows for the government to steal ideas, like the car that runs off of water. The guy that owned the patent for it, after he spoke with FBI agents, he went in the parking lot, said to his brother, "They poisoned me. I'm gonna die," and he died in that parking lot. And basically, the IP law said that because he didn't have anybody to give it to, or there was no other co-owner. Now the government owns that technology, and they won't release it. And it's like, so there are issues with the IP laws themselves, which is basically a big thing, like the corporate agenda, um, keeping people down, so that they can keep making their profits, and the lobbyism within the legislature and everything like that. I mean, nobody can argue those things. But and then there's the abortion issue, which I feel like as a libertarian, like, how can you even consider the government getting involved in a personal medical decision? You know? Mhm. Well, he's always um, been on that economic platform. He's always been on that idea of individual freedom, of individual rights, of rescinding a lot of laws like the anti-discrimination laws and things like that, because they cause more problems than they fix. Um, and it's like, to go into. Mhm. Um, I honestly haven't read the whole of the New Jersey state bylaws. As I said, I just became the vice chair of the Southern chapter, and yeah, um, and it's in general, I'm not at that point where I can even make a motion to do anything about that. I'm very, you know, my main my main goal is to try to do more outreach and try to get some more activity going. And it was just this last convention that I got this position, and I see it as a responsibility, not as a seat of power. It's a job to try to make the party less, or more desirable. I want to say less undesirable, but that doesn't make too much sense. So I want to make the party more desirable, and part of that is getting rid of these myths, getting rid of these the false ideas that have been pushed by the media for decades. Yep. Hmm. Yeah. And it's Mhm. And I want to say it's not ironic that this partisan rhetoric and divide started creeping into the Libertarian Party after the Patriot Act, which actually made it legal for them to do such things here. Um, it's it's a little bit too coincidental, in my opinion. And a lot of the times, the things that are being said are just so rhetorical and so like you can't even like it's just like they're reading off of a script, you know. And I'll call people out. I'm sure you've seen it. I'm like, oh, you sound like you're pulling some MK Ultra, COINTELPRO type of rhetoric on me here. And it's I'm one of the few people that actually read a lot about those things, and the agendas and the way that they speak and the persuasive dialect and everything like that is all in there. And especially if they were able to get into somebody who has a seat of power, such as the national chair, to push for certain things, you get the idea that, hey, this person's at the top level of this party and they're doing this. So we're going to rally behind them and we're going to really be, a unified force on this level. And, what really woke me up to the severity of it happening was New Hampshire, where basically there was about a dozen or so, is what the claim was, from Gilletta, who was the former chair of the New Hampshire Party, New Hampshire State Party. A dozen or so. That was one of the first ones that was like really. She basically, with the support of the chair, henchman at the time, which is an ironic name, uh, and a dozen or so LNC members, which kind of, that's most of them. And she was given the the green light to take the party. And basically, what she did was she said she was told she would have 100% support in all of this from everybody involved. And she closed down the whole party, basically kicked every member of the New Hampshire Party out of the New Hampshire Party, wrote her own bylaws, and you had to sign an agreement, um, that you wouldn't fight against this to join the New Hampshire Party. She did it illegally. She stole a lot of the party assets. Uh, took like made people who were supposed, like the treasurer was now all of a sudden not allowed to access the money. Um, the actual banners and other things that they use for events and stuff like that, they weren't allowed access to until they said, "Hey, I have a lawyer, and what you're doing is illegal, and I'm going to sue you, and you're going to be criminally charged if you don't just say, hey, okay, fine." And basically, Gilletta did not have the support that she thought she was going to have. The people that were all vocal in supporting her decided, oh, I don't want to be named here. Henchman actually deleted a good number of emails, and they were all pretty much those email threads. And the LNC had 30 days after his resignation to, well, I think because he did it like 3 or 4 days before he resigned. I might not be 100% on that, but with Google, you have 30 days to get back any emails that you deleted. Even if you deleted them fully, you still have 30 days where you can say, hey, Google, I want those emails. Well, the LNC didn't do that. And I believe that was a concerted effort to hide the evidence of who was involved. And there's been other types of coups in Delaware and Michigan, and I mean, even Oregon. Oregon happened a long time ago, but that was quickly nipped in the butt. And I'm not even fully abreast on like every single coup that happened. Mhm. Yes. Similar. Um, well, basically, through the years of Sarwark being chair twice and henchman, the they got a lot of new people involved who were agreeable with this leftist, this anti-right ideology. I want to say, not, I don't even want to call them leftist. I just want to say anti-right. Um, so anything deemed right wing was automatically no good. Was automatically suspect. Was automatically, oh, you're a Republican. You're not a libertarian type of thing. And honestly, you do kind of see some of that within the Mises caucus itself, but the higher ups will be like, hey, cut that out. That's not what we're here for. We don't want identity politics. That's we're supposed to be against that. So I've actually seen, Heiss and other people that are generally blamed for all of this stuff, you know, actually talk it down and be like, hey, no, that's not right. Um, when I first started debating about the IP stuff, some of my comments were deleted. I went right to Heiss. Hey, Heiss, like, why are my comments being deleted? Bam, they got restored. You know, and I can definitely say that my reaction to these things is different than the extremist reaction where they're calling names and they're saying, "Oh, you're corrupt and you're Republican plants and this that the other thing." Like that's you're going to get banned. You're going to get banned from these groups if you're doing that because that they don't want that turmoil. Like the Mises groups are the only place where we don't have that turmoil anymore. And I've actually been kicked out of other libertarian groups that I've been part of since I started Facebook. And just because I'm not buying into that, I'm not buying into that hate, and I'm going against it. I'm like, oh, you're being disrespectful. I'm like, how am I being disrespectful? Like they wouldn't answer me. They couldn't answer me, and it's just they're basically silencing that voice so that they can keep on going this anti-right type of thing because libertarianism has always been kind of seen as a right wing ideology, but like yeah, yeah, very very common, yeah. And it's like I've never been a Republican. I was actually. Mhm. Yep. Yeah, I feel like that's wholly anti-libertarian because it's not you're not supposed to agree with everything. And a lot of people have always had the complaints of, oh well, libertarians, there's too much disagreement. Well, because we're all individuals, you know. Yes. Hmm. Yeah, yeah, and he's done it respectfully. He's been one of the reasonable voices in there. You know, because I feel like he's kind of sees the same thing that I'm seeing with this anti-right rhetoric, creating a partisan divide within the party that's supposed to be nonpartisan, and that's generally a lot of people have joined Mises just because of that. And again, like to go back to why I even started being why I stopped being a small L and started being a big L. I actually joined the party. I actually started paying dues. I actually became part of the group because I saw that not being part of the group meant it was losing its libertarianism. The group itself was becoming less libertarian, and a lot of people like me started stepping up. And then they started saying, "Oh well, you haven't been a member for da, 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 da." Well, it's I've been a supporter for longer than I've been a member, but the need to be a member was not so great until now, until this partisan divide started coming, because most of the groups, anybody starting the partisan rhetoric would just be shunned. They'd be like, "Oh, get out of here. We're not like that. We're not like that." And nowadays, it's the other way around. And um, I met her in Philadelphia. When, during the Joe Jorgensen campaign, and she was very nice. She was very kind, and very kind, very kind. She was just respectful, kind. Like I didn't like. It wasn't like, oh hey, now we're friends. But I just, we like passed. We talked a little bit and this, that, the other thing, and it was like, all right, I got a good vibe from her. I think, oh yeah, oh yeah, in California, it was very, very big. Like they were one of the most vocal of all the state parties was California, and that was she was majorly involved in that. She's been doing a lot of stuff with that too. And in general, like I've always thought she was a good person from what I could tell, and the complaints against her are like extremely hyperbolic. Like you got to think, you just had a kid. Yeah, like she just had a kid, and she's bombarded with from all angles with all this crap, and she just wants to do her job. And that's kind of the way I see it. Like if it's too extreme, she's not going to respond. She's going to focus her energy on where she thinks it's going to make the most progress in her position. Mhm. Mhm. Um, yeah, I can't disagree with that because the anti-war rally that they had with the People's Party really surprised me. Um, and like the People's Party, in my opinion, is basically the oligarchy's response to third parties. They're just another branch of the oligarchy trying to take the votes away from the actual third parties that are trying to make a difference. It's all people that support the oligarchy, Yang, and everything wants that the government to pay us no matter what we do type of thing. Yeah. Well, nope, they never do. They don't want to. They don't want to. That's not their agenda. And again, you go into the aspects of like MK Ultra, COINTELPRO, Operation Mockingbird. Put all three of them together, and that's basically where we are today in politics. Um, and the People's Party is the branch of the oligarchy that's like really pushing the bad narratives. Um, we got blamed. The Libertarian Party got blamed for the people that the People's Party brought into as speakers into this rally as speakers. And even Angela even said it was a mistake that she made to agree to be autonomous. That the People's Party would be responsible for vetting the People's Party speakers. The Libertarian Party would be responsible for vetting the Libertarian speakers. And that kind of sounded good. Yeah, yeah. Well, and to get my point across, basically, um, like she's blinded by the. I feel like she's blinded by the idea of the altruism. She has good faith in people of her own. She's more like people will project. themselves onto others and not see it. And basically, what happened with the People's Party speakers, I forget who it was, but one of them um, had like Nick. Yes, yes, yes. He was actually like in chat rooms, knowing that the girl was 15 and asking her for things, and that does like, but the Libertarian Party wasn't part of vetting him. They didn't see that. Once she saw that evidence, she stopped defending him. But okay, it, it's yeah, there, but you have the issue where like regardless of what he was saying, it might have been a CIA plan. It very well could have been an adult cop and pictures of an adult cop and stuff like that. But once they say I'm 15 years old, all cards are off. Like I'm sorry, even if you think they might not be. Yeah, the second time, like it was ridiculous. But like you got to think, she's being called a racist. She's being called a bigot. She's being called all these names and all these things to ruin her character. So she's very skeptical about these other accusations against other people. And it's I've even had I've been in chat rooms and I've had people instant like direct message me from these chat rooms of, oh, oh, can I meet you close to your house? And they knew details about like my town and stuff like that and what store they wanted to meet me at. And I'm like, no. What if my mom comes with me? I said, no, I'm still not meeting you. It's like I just turned 18 and you're telling me you're 14 years old and you want to meet. Like, no, no. And oh, is it just because of my age? Will you wait until I'm older? Well, that's what was said to me. And yeah, this is stuff that was happening to me because I had my screen name at the time was Death 12 SR, and Death was my nickname when I played ice hockey. 12 was my number, SR for Sam Ross. So it kind of like it was a magnet for these types of agendas, these types of profiles trying to get me to do something wrong because they thought I was a bad person based on the death part of it. Um, so that's why I changed it to Reg Joe Schmo because I'm like I'm really honestly just a regular Joe Schmo. And I've had that handle since I was 17. I've had that handle since I was 17. Well, no, because I was 19. I'm sorry, my time is like screwed up. Yeah, and it wasn't Death Star; it was Death 12 SR. Well, it was just being in the Yahoo chat rooms and stuff like that, and it's just they would see my name, and I would be making jokes and stuff like that, and like, I do kind of have like a dark, dirty humor to myself. I'm human, but like you're in an adult chat room and you're conversing with other adults, then all of a sudden somebody's like, oh hey, this that the, and it's just like no, and like I've had a few times that's happened to me, and I've always said no. So, regardless of if it's the CI. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You're not going to get busted in a sting if you don't have that propensity. Um, and I definitely feel like, Angela's more worried about trying to make bridges rather than actually vet these people in that way and see it for what it is. And maybe some of the things weren't so like, yeah, there's been issues where like the Duke lacrosse team were all charged and convicted, and then the lady writes a book after it was proven that she lied. She actually admitted that she lied about the whole ordeal. So you have this wish-washy thing, and I've been a victim of false accusations on other domestic violence issues and stuff with the family court. um, so when you've been a victim of false accusations, you sympathize with people. And you know even when I was doing a lot of this stuff, because I was one of the state leaders for Fathers for Justice for a long time. until the actual the founder left. And again, this goes more into the COINTELPRO stuff. Again, it started with the male female stuff. Like they pit us against each other based on our biases. And one of the last things I said, yeah, and one of the last things that I said, um, as a member of Fathers for Justice was, hey guys, we're Fathers for Justice, not Fathers for just us. So me wanting to hold rallies for women who lost custody for no reason, for the Title IV benefits that happen within the family courts, is not a bad thing. But they attacked me because, oh, we can't be supporting women with custody because then fathers won't get custody. I'm like, I don't care about women versus fathers. I care about people, actually getting custody of their children because they deserve it, and people losing custody because they deserve it, not just because of an accusation, you know. And there was even recently, my one cousin started going through stuff, and everybody, we were at a family event, everybody's like, I can't believe they could just do that with no evidence. And I'm like, I I had, what I'm saying, like 16 years of dealing with the family court for, like, like, and that's all I had to deal with, the false accusations, and I had to keep proving that it was wrong, proving it was wrong, proving it was wrong. And like, but the courts just wouldn't do anything to the people that were interfering with the custody, to the people that were doing the wrong things, that were lying, that were making the false accusations. They wouldn't do anything to them because that meant they would lose the Title IV funds that they were getting from me not having custody. Well, I mean, I always had joint custody, but I never had the residential custody, and that whole thing. It's probably another podcast we can do to get into that. But like, you know, the guy Donald Ten came in and just started pushing this anti-woman rhetoric and just drove Fathers for Justice to the ground. And it's like, this is basically what's happening within the Libertarian Party. Yep. Yeah, they still deserve the same rights that we all have, no matter what, you know. I'm just not into pushing children who don't understand what it is into doing it. If you don't have the cognitive ability to actually assess risks until you're 18, how can you how can you choose to have a gender surgery at 9? You know? Mhm. Yeah, and that's yeah, that's purely medical. You know, that's something that they can't. It's not a choice for them. They can't just decide. It is what it is. You know, but like that, unfortunately, with what's been going on, with the push for it, with putting it into fifth grade school, like classes and stuff like that, and it's like, you know, it doesn't make sense to me because these children can't understand what is really going on. They can't understand the differences. Like they just want to be kids. Let them be kids. Like we should not be pushing sexual things on them. And um, I never, re- I never liked Tulsi from this. I never liked Tulsi from the start. I always felt like she was just saying things to get people to rally behind her. She wasn't really, like, her voting record never really matched what her rhetoric was. Um, and it's just generally anybody that's made it within the oligarchy, I feel is suspect in general, and if you're able to, get a seat of power within the Republican or Democrat Party on a national level. I know a few local people here and there, that I get along with great, township people that I've worked with within my own town, within the school system, things like that. Um, it doesn't really bother people on that level, but you know, being even like to AOC, she changed a lot since she actually got into that seat, since she actually got elected. So yeah, well, yeah, and I know she had a hard time getting an apartment after getting elected. She needed an apartment in DC. She couldn't even afford it, you know. So, but then again, that could have just been a Operation Mockingbird, giving the auspice that she is one of us. Um, and in general, like I really feel the Libertarian Party is the only party that will promote somebody who is just a real person, and unfortunately, the real people get shunned because they're not going to cater to a lot of the rhetoric that's being pushed by the media. And you have the aspect of mass psychology. We're hearing and seeing these things on the radio, on the TV, on our computers, in commercials, like everywhere we're getting inundated with this left versus right ideology stuff. And it's, you know, as far as I've seen it from when I was a kid, the Republicans will pass certain laws that are supposed to do this one thing, but then when the Democrats come into power, it allows the Democrats to do something else. Um, and it's just generally like the difference between the Patriot Act and the NDAA. Like it's a ladder, and they're pitting us against each other, and they keep climbing this ladder as an oligarchy, and they keep reaping the benefits of these laws that they keep passing, and these policies that they keep passing, and these agencies that they keep opening up. And it's like, for recent example of this is rescinding the Roe versus Wade. Well, Roe versus Wade, it was basically, it was the Fourth Amendment, and I want to get this right. The I always get it wrong, the number of the amendments, but basically that every law has to apply equally. I think it was the 13th Amendment. Sometimes I say, in general, they feel like it should be done by the states. It shouldn't be federally controlled. That's their rhetoric on it. Um, well, I think federally, the right to have the choice, that the state shouldn't be able to obstruct that right. And that's where the federal government comes in to protect the individual rights, in my opinion. And well, basically, like they're like, oh well, it's overreaching, yeah, exactly. Um, so like we have basically like a lot of them are anti-abortion, and personally, me, I'm anti-abortion, but I would never tell somebody, even if they were holding, even if they had my child within them, I don't want you to do this because I feel it's wrong. That's not right. I'm not the one that has to go through that process. I'm not the one that has to, whether or not it's from my loins or of my genetics or is my child, I don't have that say over somebody else's own personal autonomy, you know. Um, but no, no, no. I skimmed through a bunch of stuff, but Um, in general, that's how we're the north, central, and south, and then we're kind of breaking it up into counties and stuff like that. And there's actually more people in the north and central that are active, that are actual party members. We have one county that has a few thousand people in southern, and then the rest of it's all kind of sparse. But South Jersey also is very spread out as it is. We're not so condensed in population. So, mhm, yeah. Mhm, mhm, okay. Mhm. That would be very, very big, very big. Um, Absolutely. Yeah. And yeah, that would definitely be helpful with my role with community outreach and stuff like that. But to go back to what I was saying about how the oligarchy was table topping each other, um, you have the rescinding of Roe versus Wade, which protected our Fourth Amendment rights and the 10th Amendment rights, basically saying that the government has no right to interfere with our medical decisions. And then we have the leftist ideals of, oh, everybody must be vaccinated. Everybody must be vaccinated. But the government didn't have the means to go into our personal medical records, did not have the legal right to dictate our medical how our medical care. Now that Roe versus Wade is rescinded, the government actually has the right to make legal mandates and not just or to make laws to force us to take vaccines versus just a mandate that suggests we should. And that's one of the things that again, it's a conspiracy theory of my own. I've tried to bring it up with a couple of other people. Yeah, yeah. So they're slowly changing these laws and changing these things to where the government can force us. Like if people were forced to take that mRNA vaccine, so many more people would have died. So many more people would have died. The side effects to it and the fact that it made more people asymptomatic and still carriers, even though they said it would reduce it. And then it comes out they never did a study on it. They never studied it at all. They just pushed it through. And then you have Facebook, who was like censoring all the information, even still censors the information about the TP53 spike proteins that were put into. Yeah. And we need untouchable people to get on the national scale. That's it. We need people that see these positions as responsibility and not as a seat of power. People who won't be coaxed into doing something wrong on video and then blackmailed. Like I know I personally, like, whatever I will do, if you put that up, I'll just be like, yeah, so what? I'm gonna eat a banana and tell you to fuck off. I'm gonna look in the camera while I'm eating a banana and say fuck you, because that's who I am. And like, like, you don't want to look people in the eyes when you're eating a banana. But if you're gonna make accusations against me like that, that's what you're gonna get. You know. Yep. Yep. Food actually tastes better when there's pieces being made. Yeah, because the government is protecting the profits of the corporations. And it's the mass production that generally does it. Like, even if you have a bag of rice and you never open it, and it goes and it's still before its expiration date, you will get bugs in that rice because there are eggs in it. If you get something from the food pantry like that, you're going to have black spots in your things, and those are the eggs, those are the bugs. you know if it wasn't so mass produced, you wouldn't have so much of it. If you grew your own vegetables, you wouldn't have these outbreaks of diseases that come from the lettuce and stuff like that, people getting sick and dying, off of something that could have been prevented if you grew it in your own home. But you're also not allowed to grow it in your own home. You're not allowed to do these things. You have to buy it now. I mean, before, during the depression, they said, hey, everybody should have a chicken so that you don't have to buy eggs. Now they're like, eggs are $6 now. They used to be 250. Now they're $6, and that within a year. So it's like, and you're not allowed to own your own chickens. So yeah. And like my township, it's against the zoning. But if you live on the border between Tuckerton and Little Egg Harbor, there's no zoning. You can have chickens if you live on the border. There's people on the other side of my street that can have chickens legally, but I can't. So it doesn't make any sense. We're in the same. Well, I have, like, my back. I have two neighbors on the back, and then the other street is right behind it. So I don't. Well, yeah, yeah, and I don't want them in my house. I would not want them in my house. After taking care of them for the past like 3 months, I don't want chickens in my house. They're Unless you're cleaning every like 2-3 hours, you don't want them in your house. Yeah, but they would see it, and that's the problem too. Is like, you got to worry about somebody ratting you out. Uh, I believe so. Yeah, and one neighbor doesn't even like me parking on the street in front of their house. It's like, or if I have friends over, they're just like, oh, they have a camera pointed at my front porch because I sit on my front porch and smoke weed sometimes. It's like, yeah. So you don't always know. And again, and that like these laws empower these people to be like, oh, I need to watch what's going on in my community and make sure everybody's following the law. Like our one neighbor to the left, after they moved out, we couldn't figure out who was calling the cops on us over random crap. And like even the cops were like, I don't get why I'm even here, type of stuff, like. And then we see a stack of papers that she had for filing complaints. It's our neighbor that was so nice to us. That was like, oh yeah, oh, I don't know, oh, I have no problem with this, no problem with that. And then the cops are getting called for it, and we're like, who's doing this? Because our neighbor says she has no problem with it. We know my aunt lives across the street. Like, yeah, yeah, yep, yep. And again, it's just that power and control idea. Like people feel inferior sometimes, and they have to. Well, I have to replace that inferiority with a sense of accomplishment, and they do it against other people rather than doing it. Well, yeah. Generally, we want to open people's minds to the idea that the Libertarian Party is not what you see on the television. A lot of the rhetoric, some of the things that we've even debated about, I'm like, that just sounds like too rhetorical. Like this isn't coming from a seat of understanding. This is coming from being told things and seeing things that support that, but not really looking into it. And I just want to kind of try to be a face of reality, a face of logic, and try to reach out to people and say, hey, we are here and we can do something about this. You say we're the biggest third party, and but we don't even need. I think we still have a good amount of ballot access. I know Greg Mealy was running for governor, and this time he's running for a senator. Um, so we've been staying on top of that pretty much. One guy, he's like, "Oh, I need signatures," but we only have a week to get signatures before, So it's like, oh, and it's Memorial Day weekend, so nobody wants to go knocking on doors on Memorial Day weekend, and most people won't want to be bothered, And I just was told to get in touch with him last week, and I'm like, well, I have a camping trip with my family this weekend. Like, I can't, like that's already scheduled. Like, we have to start doing things preemptively. We have to start doing things earlier, and just show up at different events and other things with just a table. This is who we are. Ask us questions. My personal experience, even just at the convention, there was a couple of ladies that were there for domestic violence issues, and they were like, oh, they just heard me speaking on some of the bylaws issues and stuff like that, and so like they were going over things, and just how I was speaking, they're like, I'm really interested in like, I want to pick your brain on what you think about this and what you said about that, and and they asked questions about things that they were being told about the Libertarian Party. I said, no, that's a general misconception, and I'd explain it to them, like, oh wow, we'd really like to stay in touch and stuff like that. um and unfortunately, I really haven't heard from them since, but um that might have been because I didn't go back to the hotel room with them, but that's not my style. But it's like, yeah, I want more opportunities on that level to kind of get the word out as to who we are and why we are doing this. Because it's. Go ahead. Mhm. What we're focusing on, and basically the strategy stuff that I can talk about, is keeping more focus on the local elections, trying to get into the local things. And generally, when you start small and you get that experience as an elected official, then you can go larger. Then you can get, like, when we like Gary Johnson, as an example, did great things with Arizona. He turned their debt around. He turned so many things around, and like their immigration policy and everything. Like they wound up being like a hub of like positive change. And I was really hoping that he could use that to go up a level, become president. Unfortunately, again, bringing up the Operation Mockingbird, the media, like normally when you're, like you said, sometimes there's questions that you want to be asked and things like that. Like when you're talking, when you see Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump or Joe Biden or George Bush or any of those people on an interview, it's all scripted. They're told what questions to ask. They're told what questions not to ask. And there was a line of questioning going on during the interview with Gary Johnson. And then all of a sudden they say, "What's your take on Aleppo?" And he's like, "What's Aleppo?" Because it turned his head around. And they were like, "Aleppo, the town." He's like, "Oh, wait, that like you changed things on me. I'm so sorry." And he answered the question succinctly with no hesitation. But the media only showed him say, "What's Aleppo?" So he's thinking Leppo, like, what is a Leppo? Like, what are you talking about? Like, where is this coming from? And they made him seem like an idiot, and he was actually gaining. He was getting up to 20 to 30% within the polls, and after that, it plummeted. You know, so mhm, mhm. Well, and again, I fully support Wu Tang as well. And he was like, "Hey, listen, if you're not going to listen to reason, I'm out." You know, it took a while for her to actually like be able to see the evidence against this guy to be like, "Oh yeah, no, we're no, we can't support that." Obviously, after seeing that, that was her point. She literally specifically said after seeing the fact that he went back and asked for things, believing that she was 15 years old, I can't support that. You know, I'm not very familiar with that. No, I honestly can tell you that. And again, if they're negative, like you kind of what you're saying about it is that they're kind of they put themselves in there to kind of cause turmoil. I guess it seems like. Mhm. Yep. Yeah, they're pushing posts that have facts in them down and making people not see it, and all the ones that are supporting all the rhetoric and all the the bigotry is all getting out there. Mhm. Yep. Mhm. Yep. And that's the overall point we gotta focus on is that we're all human beings. And that was one of the things that I really liked about the Libertarian Party is that it took all the good parts about these other parties and like, hey, we want to do the good things. We want to meld all the positive aspects of things together to make one thing of freedom. And unfortunately, like there's definitely bigotry going on, and it's partisan. It's partisan bigotry. If you're too left wing, I don't like you. If you're too right wing, I don't like you. And it's like that's not akin to our philosophy as libertarians. We're not supposed to worry about that. We're supposed to say, hey, you want freedom to do what you want? You want freedom to do what you want? Like let's do this as long as like you're not infringing on the freedoms of these people, you know? And I always say like that's one of the things I will say during these debates is like, oh, anarchism versus communism. Like we don't have to be versus. As I said in the beginning, we can have a commune living next to an anarchist as long as the commune is voluntary, as long as it's not governmental forcing people to share their means of production that they don't want to share. You know, that's fine. It's the unions. It's a joke among the New Jersey, like it's the unions. It doesn't matter if it's a Republican or a Democrat. The unions will hold that power. The lobbyists will hold that power. There's a lot going on, like, and especially like with our gas tax. The the ballot the ballot question that they had during the polls, the like, do you want the Port Authority to control everything? Everybody's like, yeah, because the state's fucking it up. Well, the state was fucking it up because they're taking advice from the Port Authority, and there was legal restrictions that prevented the Port Authority from doing things that it wanted to do. And now you just voted to give them all the rights, and now our taxes are going up. And you voted for it, but they completely sold it as if it was going to prevent these problems rather than help, facilitate them. And a lot of people bought it. Um, yeah, they don't have as much reason for it, but now they can raise the tolls whenever they want to. It's like, oh well, it costs us $4 million a mile to repave the road, and we repave it every year, even though it should only probably be done every like 3 to 5 years. And you know, half the time that you see like the majority of the people working on the roads doing nothing. But let's give these people all the power to make all the decisions that they want to make, rather than actually saying, hey, let's open up the market so that it's not just one company controlling everything, one company setting all the prices, one company working with the government. If we have paving companies around the state actually bidding for things, we can get reasonable prices, you know. But it's just unfortunately less government is the answer when people are asking the government to fix things that the government creates. So it's like a paradox. Hopefully we can get a little bit more balance because I do kind of see like with the Mises Caucus, like because everything that happened with New Hampshire and everything that was happening when they booted Karen Ann for being a whistleblower. Even libertarians, most of them don't know because they don't want to like be part of the infighting, or they like they look the other way, or it's more popular to say I wasn't paying attention to that. And again, that goes into more of the COINTELPRO stuff. I remember a big nonpartisan group, Occupy. They were totally against all of that rhetoric, against any of the left versus right. They're like, listen, we're against the oligarchy, we're against the elite, we're against the 1% of the people that are actually controlling things. Um, and they were smart about it. They didn't use any religion or any race or anything to describe the people that are doing this. They said it's just them. Um, and it was a long-standing effort to push them into a leftist ideology, wokeism type of thing. I was actually in contact with the founders of Occupy during that time and was doing things in Trenton with the people doing stuff there. Like I was donating food and time and all that other stuff. and they were just like, I can't believe it. Like, I can't believe it. Like, there's people pretending to be us that are pushing things that we're wholly against. And they gave up after a time because the media, the media just like the media won't focus on the people that are actually running it. They're gonna, yeah, yep. They would only give attention to the fake people that were running the scripts, that were misrepresenting the whole thing in general, and it just fizzled out. It fizzled out because it was, yep, yep. There's there's a fun fact that 2/3 of the CIA budget actually goes towards our media, and that was exposed in the 70s. you know, there's a whole congressional hearing that proves everything that they're doing. Yeah, and you look at the different. It used to be, oh well, Channel 6 was ABC, Channel 7 was ABC, but they were different conglomerates. The evening news was different for Channel 6 than it was for Channel 7. Now they're all saying the same exact thing. You know. Yep. Yep. We definitely have to focus on grassroots, and that's what really got me into like working with the Mises. Is they were grassroots. You know what I'm saying? Like they are grassroots. You know, and a lot of the stuff that they are doing and is going on behind the scenes, they're not getting. Well, that's another thing. That's the bigger part. But like the stuff that's going on in like Pennsylvania, New Hampshire, New Jersey, within groups, it's not being seen because it's not getting attention, even though it's positive. It's not. It's like they don't focus on that. The media will not focus on that. And as you said, like the PA has over 200 elected officials. Well, it was honestly a lot of the Mises people that were doing the door to door to get those people on the ballots in general. And you know what I'm saying? Like now it's like, oh, well, now they're losing everything. Well, it's because people are being told that they're bigots, that they're this, that they're that, and they're just taking it at face value rather than actually looking into what's going on and talking to these people personally. They're like, oh, this person's this, that, and everybody's being told what to do by Michael Heiss, and like, I'm like, he's one of the most reasonable people I've ever talked to, and I actually like knew of him from his early anti IRS activity and stuff like that, because I've been involved in that type of stuff, just kind of more under the scenes. I was never like a big organizer until I got into the Fathers for Justice thing because like, hey, I'm losing rights to my children for no reason other than the fact that I have a lot of people want to talk about it
Stop
because there's, oh, I don't want to be called
demonstration.
fighting instead. Like, no, we just need more balance. We need more. Like, I feel like if we didn't lose the abortion plank, and the anti bigotry plank was, I think they reformed it well because of the way that the word bigotry was being used against other libertarians to remove them from the party. When really it's like the people that have been screaming, "Oh, I'm anti bigotry," are some of the biggest people, some of the biggest bigots I have met because if you don't agree with them, they don't want anything to do with you, and you're a piece of crap. And you've seen some of the debates I've had with people like over it, like, you know, and it's they don't like being called out for what it is. Oh, you don't know the definition of the word. And I'm like, well, here's the Webster definition of it, and here's how it applies to what you're doing. And then all of a sudden they start attacking me instead of like the concept. And it's just like, all right, your ego's hurt a little bit. That's fine. Uh-oh. It's the CIA. So sorry for everybody that could not hear him and only heard me yabbering on about things. We actually had a very, very good discussion. So hopefully he can fix that end of it too. I knew we were being live streamed and stuff. I don't know who's watching us or whatnot. I don't see any of that. So nice. I like the idea of critical thinking. I was responding to the phrase "we need critical thinking." I didn't even realize that was like a group of things. I'm gonna have to I'm gonna have to look them up. Yeah, yeah. That's the first time I've heard of that as an organization. But I don't know what they are about. But hey, if they're about pushing for critical thinking, I'm okay with that. Reach out to me, say hi. Um, most of the people watch the recordings versus the live as well. Yeah, I feel you. Like I said, like I just barely got home to do this at 9 o'clock, and I've been up since 5 o'clock in the morning. you know, I did my 9 to 5, and then I had a side job to do, and it's just like you know, it's unfortunately inflation is a big deal. You know, on that note, I am gonna have to say it's been a great conversation. I look forward to working with you. I'm glad that we actually had like, yeah, I'm glad that we actually had like you know interpersonal relations here rather than just back and forth comments. Because you don't get the real person. Without actually like sitting down and talking to them like face to face, like seeing your facial reactions, seeing your mannerisms and stuff like that. Like you come across a lot better in the face to face, because I'm sure I do too. Because you just get caught up in the moment sometimes, and sometimes we can be abrasive. And I'm just like, oh well, I said it. You know. So, and I'm not 100% perfect. I'm not always right all the time. So, I just got yelled at by somebody on Facebook for calling them a Fed because they wanted militia to storm the Capitol. I'm like, well, then you're an idiot if you're not a Fed to say something like that. Um, and basically, like, especially within like being a part of a group, if one person says that and we're not like, hey, that's wrong, you can't say that as a direct response to them, then under the Patriot Act, NDAA, we can all be labeled as terrorists and jailed. We can be thrown in jail over it, over one person saying something like that. And that's, again, unironically, when the CIA type of rhetoric and stuff started happening within these groups. That's when those laws were passed. So, they're just gathering evidence and hoping they can get enough people behind them to be able to imprison people for political dissidents. And they almost got their. Yeah. I'm surprised that there's not outrage across the board. But again, they're every election cycle, it's abortion, it's racism, it's all the same 3 to 4 topics every election cycle in the past like 2 decades. We've never changed any. Yeah, we've never changed anything. So let's change the people we elect, and then maybe we'll see a change. Absolutely. Absolutely. um I don't have too much up on there. Reg Joe Schmo, RegJoeSchmo is basically where you can find me anywhere. A Twitter handle. I don't really use Twitter too much, but if there's Instagram, Facebook, Samuel Ross. I know there's a lot of people with my name, but you know, yep, RegJoeSchmo, and that's even at gmail.com if you want to just directly email me or something like that, or that's the best way to find me. All right, you have a good night.